Good morning. Welcome to Tuesday Drive. So I had dinner with my friend Richard last night, and we covered a lot of ground. Actually, I was Duluth. He lives about halfway between where I live and where the 10 paintings that I had to choose for that show. He lives about halfway between me and where that show's going to be. They're going to hang that show soon, so he agreed to meet me for dinner and collect those from me, and he's going to deliver those to the gallery on my behalf. So we were hanging out and just kind of chatting about a lot of different things, and as we normally do, you know, we talked about a number of different artists. I showed him some of the artists that have popped up on my feed lately, and I don't know if many of you watch videos by Learn from Masters. These are amazing, and I can't remember who it was, but one of you actually turned me on to it, and I just love discovering these artists. But what it is, and I'll link it right here so you can check it out. But it can be like an hour-long feed of like every 10 seconds or so is like a whole hour of Monet paintings, where it's just one after another, and you know, finding an artist and kind of binge watching their work is really an interesting experience, and I recommend you give that a try. And so anyway, we were talking about that, and so I shared that with him. We were talking about our experience from Saturday, and how one of the artists actually made the comment that this was probably one of the best paint outs that he had ever been to. Now, I mean, if you watch that video, I mean, and this is how this typically goes. We show up at a site like that, and in this case, we were celebrating the 10th anniversary. We met at that pavilion, and we would have met there and had donuts and said a few words to each other and kind of hung out. But then we would have dispersed like into our little corners of that park that's there, and we would have painted in. For the most part, we would have painted in solitude like we normally do, and I was processing why in a rain thunderstorm, and we're all stuck under this pavilion, why he would describe it as one of the best paint outs he'd ever been to. And I think it was the fact that we were all within conversation distance from each other, and there was a lot of really cool dialogue that was taking place amongst the whole group, and everybody was sort of engaged in it and sharing in it, and it was an interesting experience that I wish there would have been a way to capture that on camera, because somebody would say something, and then someone who was concentrating over here painting would register it, but then after they finished the passage that they were working on, they would then comment on what was said like 2 minutes ago, and it was really an interesting interesting experience. But I sort of agree. You know, I loved it, and you know, I mean, you know, my friend Randy, who's the veteran that I'm painting with. He was supposed to go, but he has a little high blood pressure and wasn't sleeping well the night before, so he sent me a message and said he couldn't go. And it's interesting because I told him that when we got there that, you know, we wouldn't have to paint with other people, because he really is still kind of shy about it. So I said, no, we'll go off and paint in our own little world. So in some respects, I was kind of glad that that he wasn't along, because I wouldn't want him to be uncomfortable being that close to all these other artists. But for me and for some of the others, I think it was a really just a really phenomenal experience. And and it adds to the value of what we're doing, you know, and it makes me think about those who have you know, I mean, we're carrying on a tradition here, and it's an important tradition, and it's important that this tradition not get lost on any generation, because of its values and what it has to offer in general. And you know, we get so wrapped up in what we're doing and in our successes and failures of individual paintings, and you know, I wish that color would have been warmer, I wish that color would have been cooler, I wish I could have, you know, I was painting in the shade, and I was shocked at how bright my painting ended up, but you know, as soon as I posted it, someone messaged me and said, is that available? I'd like to buy it. But the world, when they view what we're doing, it's got there's a lot of mystery to it. They're like, you know, in a few hours time, you know, you alla prima that whole thing, and so not everybody. But anyway, I'm just saying that it just has major value, and people who don't paint but who observe us painting, they recognize it. They don't know exactly what it is, and sometimes I don't know what it is, but they recognize it, and they value it. So it's an important tradition, and it's important that we carry it on. You know, maybe it's that I'm reading this book right now called Crushing It, which is like really interesting. I mean, it's half insane, but completely motivated by it. So maybe I'm motivated by half insane, which is probably a story all by itself. The combination of that and some of the events of the last week, it just had me thinking about a lot of different things. And here's one, for example. You know, Richard's painting from Saturday. He was painting right next to me, just to my right, and I mean, we were all in pretty deep shadow, painting, looking out at the light, and his painting didn't survive. He ended up scraping it when he got home, and there wasn't an artist under that pavilion who wouldn't have been excited to hang that painting on their wall. I mean, I almost felt like, you know, Richard, if you're so unhappy with this painting, you know, I'll just take it with me, and I'll bring you a new canvas next time I see you to replace it. And I knew when he left that it wasn't going to survive, because I've painted with him enough to where I know when he's leaning that way. Excuse me. But I really started to think about that, and I started to think about what is it about that I mean, he scraped something that I haven't been able to achieve yet, so you can imagine how this can play with your mind when you really think about it. But if I isolate it to his journey specifically, then I can kind of begin to understand it. I think we talked before about some artists paint to sell, and some artists paint and they sell, and those are two completely different things. And Richard is one of those people where he's not painting with the intent to sell paintings. He's achieving something something specific on his own. And I last night was so nice because I mean we don't get a lot of time to just sit for a couple hours and chat with each other on the level that we did. But he really kind of broke it down for me, and it makes a lot of sense. He said I have a few artists that I admire and watch, and that he looks at a lot, and he said, you know, even though he admits that he may never achieve their level of mastery, those artists are his measure, and if he feels like whatever he's doing, if it falls short of what it was that he set out to achieve, and if it's not close enough to what he was after in his own mind, then there's no reason to keep it. So he takes a picture of it, and then he scrapes it off, and it's gone. And I have a picture of it because I wanted to see what it looked like before. And I don't know if I showed it to you already, but I'll show it to you if I didn't. And I think there's something about that, and I think what it really means is that each of us are our journeys are very specific to us. I gained a huge appreciation for his process in the last few days, and I mean from Saturday until our meeting together last night, and I have a whole new appreciation for what it is that he's actually doing, and I'm really proud of him. And inspired by the fact that, you know, he's determined that his next level of the plateau for him, because he's avoided them, I think, in the past, is structures in the landscape. And so that's what he's currently focused on, and what he's working really hard on is painting structures in the landscape. And he said something remarkable. He said, I don't care if I have to scrape 1,000 of those. I'm gonna keep doing it until I feel like I'm getting close. And I just thought that was brilliant. I mean, that's when you know that this person could care less about painting to sell. And I just really think that's amazing, and it just really encourages me, and it really kind of helps me solidify in my own mind, because I feel that way about trees right now. You know, they can be so elusive for me, so I'm forcing myself into painting more of those. And really, the whole point of why I started this studio live feed is because there are areas of painting that I really want to focus in on, and I want to take to the next level. And so by not doing those paintings a la prima, it gives me an opportunity to think about what I'm doing before I sit down and start doing it, and then continue to look at it for a while and make some decisions about where I want to go. And I really believe that through this process, my plein air paintings are actually going to be elevated, because I will be able to process those thoughts a lot quicker as I move along, and hopefully improve, step up my plein air painting a lot faster. And so there's just one more thing I wanted to talk about today, and it's about the motivation. And this is interesting. You know, I've been in dialogue last night and yesterday with Nigel Beard over in England. He actually lives kind of right there where Turner lived and painted, and Nigel lives there and paints there, and he blows me away when he sends me a picture of his painting and asks me to help him figure out how to add interest to the painting. And it's almost emotional for me to get a request like that. And because this is at the core of what it is that I am trying to do, and that is that I know what painting has done for me personally, and I just want to help other people enjoy this the way I do. And I'm an open book. I have no problem sharing any knowledge that I may have gained along the way, and I mean, you know where I'm at in my painting abilities, and you know, if I measure myself, you know, here's an example. I mean, Richard and I are spaced 10 years apart. He's 10 years older than I am. He started painting plein air oil 10 years before I did. I would say, you know, at this point, we are, if I just measure it, and if I just ask myself, where do you think you are now from where Richard is, you know, I might be 7 years apart. You know, maybe where my painting level is 7 years ago, that might be where Richard was. And so I think maybe that gap is closed a little bit. And so, but here, honestly, you know, I want to close that gap, not in 7 years, you know. I mean, ultimately, I would love to close that gap in 1 year. But that, and I'm talking about that 7-year gap that exists now, but that's just not, I have a job, I have to support my family. And I'm not making excuses, but there are you know, those are realities that you have to deal with. And so I don't, you know, I have a son who's going to be a senior in high school and a son who's going to be a senior in college this next year, and my daughter is going to have a baby in December, and so I'm still fully immersed in my family, and so I have to be careful about the family balance in work and this work, which, you know, is a lot of work. And anyway, I have to you know, keep that balance where it is. So I recognize the fact, and I only say that to just say that I recognize that I don't have the available time to invest. I don't have that many hours left in the day, and then I have other projects that I absolutely must complete, and before I can really move forward. I mean, I have committed some things to some other people that I have to get finished as well. So that it's a lot of things, but you know, what I'm driving toward. And I don't know how crazy this sounds, and what all this means, and I don't have it all figured out, and that's okay. I don't really expect to have it all figured out. So I hope you don't mind the random nature of Tuesday Drive. Sometimes I have an idea of what I want to talk about, and sometimes times that idea ends up getting hijacked by another idea somewhere along the drive. So hopefully you're used to me by now, and you don't mind that sometimes this can be pretty random. But that's okay. I mean, I prefer that it be organic rather than planned. So so there you have it. It just cracks me up. So I'm trying to think of a summary for today, and I think it would be, you know, to not get too wrapped up in where you are and, you know, what it is that you're trying to achieve I'm saying work hard on the hard stuff. That's really that's been my philosophy all along, and I know that the path is, for me, if I continue to do that, and if I do that in increasing quantities, if I make myself do the hard stuff, you're going to get better, and you're going to get a lot better a lot quicker. And so this is one of those lessons that goes, in my opinion, it just goes way beyond painting. You know, this is a lesson for life, and because it just goes against our nature, I think, and I think it's what probably separates the majority of us from Navy SEALs. So thanks for following Tuesday Drive. As always, I do appreciate it, and I always feel like I'm speaking directly to kind of my core subscriber group, and I enjoy our dialogue here, and I look forward to it every week. And if you're new to this, and you found this valuable, hit that subscribe button and the bell notification so you don't lose track of me. And I'll catch you later.